Premier, in the past few months prior to today, you've announced or re-announced approximately $330 million in funding in Westman, not including the cancellation of the archive. Why choose this particular time to make such funding for Westman?
I'm surprised it's not more. Look outside. Is there a better place to be right now than Westman? It's beautiful.
What's your response to the Conservatives saying that you're just trying to attract votes for the upcoming Spruce Woods by-election, which is yet to be done?
Hasn't been called. We're here to announce some great news for healthcare in Manitoba. Rebuilding the damage that the people you're quoting there caused, I would add.
So, do you think that...
So? 300 nurses, the 3 biggest emergency rooms, hundreds of beds, cut by the PCs. Us, on the other hand, hey, sun is shining, everyone's smiling, kids are going to school, physicians are being trained. Even more ministers are showing up because the good vibes are just emanating out across the Westman region. Ladies and gentlemen, relatives, Ian Bushy, the Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures, come on down, get in this photo op.
Premier, as you're aware, there's no spending limits before by-elections formally called. There's a blackout on any...
You seem to be really on this really narrow thing, Bartley. You gotta expand your mind. We're talking about the future of medicine in Western Manitoba. What are we gonna do in terms of artificial intelligence to be able to make the time of a physician most effectively spent with the interpersonal relationship with the patient? How are we going to be able to deploy at scale the health human resources that are needed to maintain a strong standard of health care? You know, in communities like Melita and Wawanisa and Boissevain and many others across the region. What are we going to do in terms of ensuring that as Canada faces an increasingly challenging global situation, not just on trade, but on national security too, that will ensure that we have high capacity bandwidth connections to other parts of the country, not just for telemedicine, but really for the entire economy? I mean, these are the questions we should be grappling with in our society. If you want to read me the liner notes of a Beatles album or a PC press release, go ahead and do so, but I think there's much, much bigger questions that we should be entertaining these days.
Well, I appreciate
Here's one. Yesterday, a couple of staffers and I were welcomed into the Green Acres colony, and it was a lovely day. It was a beautiful day. We had an awesome time. I learned a ton. This colony is building fire trucks, beautiful, beautiful, shining machines that are doing such important work right now, fighting the fires. And they asked a question. We had a little town hall type setup. One of the members asked a question. I said, you know, Premier, your government, what do you see as the future role of Hutterites in Manitoba? I kind of thought about it a lot and asked, well, what do you think? You tell me, what should the colonies and the citizens of our province who live there contribute in the future of our province, right? And so we had a good discussion there. But I was driving into town from Boissevain this morning. I was thinking, you know what? I think most people are aware artificial intelligence is going to fundamentally change our economy and our society in the coming years. Not even decades, probably in the next few years. You're going to see major, major upheaval. And as I was driving in and reflecting on the time we spent yesterday afternoon, I got to thinking, you know, I think some of the Hattarian communities in Manitoba may be best positioned of any of us to withstand and adapt to the coming change that AI is going to bring. These are communities that have seen a huge amount of technological change that they've managed to incorporate into their day-to-day lives and to their industry, and yet they've maintained a cohesive sense of identity and most of all purpose. Is the rest of the province ready for changes to the workforce, changes to education, changes to healthcare? We're getting ready. Investments like this one will help us prepare. But do you have an answer for purpose in an age of machine learning? Do you have an answer for employment when huge amounts of what we do today as intellectual and manual labor become automated? Again, we're not going to get this in the headlines and the back and forth of media coverage here, but these are the type of conversations that our society needs to be having. And in particular, at an institution like this one, this is the exact place where we need to be sorting through those issues. So I cannot thank people in the region enough for helping to stimulate and provoke and challenge some of these really important conversations that we need to engage in.
So, Mr. Premier, do you believe that all these announcements have nothing to do with the violation?
Yeah, no, I mean, I really want to underline how much our government is focused on the future of our province. We're going to need health care in all parts of Manitoba. We're going to need jobs in all parts of Manitoba. And while many people look at the coming age of AI and they say, you know what, just do a universal basic income, I think we in the province should start thinking about universal basic meaning, universal basic purpose. If we have a young person today who we're saying invest years in your education, whether it's engineering or art or business or maybe kinesiology, what have you, what is the future role for them? Sprucewood's by-election will come and go and it'll be long done with. The substantive issue that leaders in our society should be grappling with is, what does it mean for government decisions to be made today that are going to ensure the future health and realization of full potential for young people in our society today, while ensuring that we're taking advantage of the economic opportunities that this current moment provides and taking care of the previous generations who built our society. So yeah, we're investing in the West Man region because we believe that putting those pieces together judiciously and in a smart fashion is going to ensure that we have the maximum amount of success in serving you, the people of Manitoba.
Do you have any idea who your party's candidate?
We're here to talk about rebuilding healthcare. That's what we're doing today.
When will you
After all,
announce-
quick question.
I mean, I was starting to wonder if this was a party of one we were having here, an audience of one. No, let's go with Michelle from the Brandon Sun. Michelle from the Brandon Sun is going to ask a question now.
This is about training doctors after school. Earlier this year, I spoke with the Dr. Aaron Jatan. He is now with the family medicine program at
You want to jump up here?
And he took his residency here in Brandon, but he said when he was finished, there was no room for him. He had to go and train in Steinbach. So has anything been done to fix that?
I may misspeak because I was not part of his negotiations with the hospital, but I think he was looking for a particular job within the hospital, and they were full. They didn't have positions available. And so again, I'm not privy to all of the conversations that were had. In addition, his wife was in training in Winnipeg and not completed her training in Winnipeg. So I think there were probably a number of factors that contributed to his decision to leave and move to Winnipeg.
So has that's not a
Steinbach.
situation anymore?
Yeah, he's
That
okay.
lots of
I can
trainings-
speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Michelle, and it's an important one because you're correct, right? It's one thing to create these seats, but you need to create the opportunities within the region in order for these medical residents to be supported and successful and have those opportunities. And so we're working very closely with the Regional Health Authority to make sure that they have preceptors and mentors who are within the region, whether it's at Brandon Hospital or other sites, to be able to meet their needs. We also know that the way rural medicine is being delivered is evolving, right? And so we're looking and working with the region and municipalities directly to develop approaches that are going to best meet the needs of the residents of today and the residents of the future, and to make sure that they have the right supports and health leaders and health expertise to make sure that they can flourish. So That is a really important part of this equation, and that work is actively being done. We've got 10 folks already in residence spots here. We're going to have more, and we want to make sure we can match every single one with the best support possible so they can be successful.
Just to pick up on that thought, is there any incentives for doctors? Because a lot of them are training the new ones
Yeah.
on goodwill. Is there anything been worked out in that?
You know, we're always talking to doctors to better understand what their needs are and what supports they need in order to ensure they can deliver that work and that service to residents, right? What I've heard from most doctors is they're really eager. They're really keen to provide that mentorship. They want to be that support for medical residents, but they also want to make sure that those medical residents have the infrastructure and the spaces and the opportunities that are going to meet their needs now and to really foster innovation. And so the investments that we've announced today in terms of what we're going to be doing here at Brandon University, the renovations at the hospital, all of this work is creating an environment that is going to really appeal to new learners and also appeal to the folks who are going to be supporting them in their journey.
One last question, and I'll turn it back over to the general. You did mention Carberry, that we were all there when it was open. It's
Beautiful
open on a
summer day, too.
staggered
Yeah.
basis. Was that the plan to begin with? Is that
Sure.
sort of fine?
So what we knew was that under the previous government, the Carberry Emergency Room was closed. That was it, with no plans or initiative to reopen it. And so instead of leaving that very important, vital emergency room permanently closed, we came in. We met with their Health Action Committee, a number of community members, including former nurses. We met with the municipality, their leadership, and the hospital, and we started doing the work to reopen that emergency room, knowing that it would take more time to get more resources, including additional nurses, frontline staff, doctors, and that work has been ongoing. So we successfully reopened the Carberry Emergency Room, and we're successfully continuing to add more capacity. I was there not that long ago, actually, and had the opportunity to talk to one of the doctors that we recruited to Carberry. She's wonderful. The entire team there is just outstanding. And everybody has more wonderful ideas about how we can continue to build more capacity, not only for Carberry, but to use that as a model to reopen further emergency rooms that were closed by the previous government. And we're going to do just that.
There's no rush on
Minister, what exactly is a doctor's seat?
What is a doctor's seat
Yes.
in medical school? So it's a space, it's a seat, a training seat and opportunity within the post-secondary institution for a learner. And so our government has added, I think Minister Cable could probably speak a bit better to the numbers, we've added hundreds of additional training seats. On the medical side, we've increased the medical residency capacity in Manitoba by almost 40%. And as a result, we're seeing more and more physicians, medical residents in rural Manitoba. And so when we create a seat, what we're saying is we're creating an opportunity for a learner to get that training. And now we're saying right here in Brandon in their own rural community.
And what is the annual operating cost of today's announcement in operating funds? And is that already included in the budget, or is that on top of what was in the budget for 25?
I can get you the exact number offline. Premier, you have that?
Yeah, it's $750K for operating. It is in budget. Yeah, and the capital is 3.3, as the
3.3.
minister said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I heard the 52 earlier.
52 is out of Minister Cable's department. That is also in
Yeah.
budget, and that's for the space that we're in right now.
And of the previously announced 330, how much of that is in budget and how much is new to your knowledge? And this isn't a quiz.
No, it is
on
accurate.
that.
We reviewed this on the way in. Yeah, 52. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, sorry, I was distracted. Can you run the last bit by me there?
Sure. Of the 330 million previously announced for this, for West Van in the last few months, how much of it was, to your knowledge, in budget, and how much is new funding?
95,000 would have been new, but that is within budget.
And I have some of my same questions in French, but before that, I want to make sure these guys have others on this.
We thank you for your magnanimous sharing of the time here today.
Tuxedo and Trenchstone, their by-elections got called 43 and 63 days after the seats were vacated. It's been over 110 days here in Spruce Woods. How much longer are people going to have to be without a voice before something gets called?
What's the rush?
Well, it's people's voices that aren't being heard right now.
Who's talking to you about that?
Okay.
I for sure the PCs are like sending you news releases, but have you been hearing that from
Well, I
actual
live in
residents?
Spruce Woods, so,
Do you feel you don't have a voice?
I mean, without a representative, yes.
Well, I'm your premier. What would you like me to do?
Call the by-election.
Why?
So I have my representative back.
Oh, it seems like you're taking a very hard line opinion in terms of this news article you're going to be writing.
Mr. Premier,
Are you going to declare that?
With the Apple, can you answer this question, please?
What? What question?
The question.
Polyev?
You're doing the Polyev Apple thing with him.
What is that?
Be nice.
I'm being nice. I'm
That's not
smiling.
nice. That's pretend nice. Please, ask
It's
the
not
answer.
pretend nice. I'm having fun. He knows the rules of the game just as you do. This is not a firing line. This is a scrum. We're having a back and forth. We're having
But
fun.
ask the question. The deadline for the actual election is September. To be actually take
Okay,
place.
let's unpack that, and jump in here again, please. The deadline for the by-election is when?
Middle of September.
Middle of September. Who set the rules for that?
Elections Manitoba.
Nope.
Okay.
Who passed the law? Who passed the law that made that the deadline? Ding, 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 ding. How many days before the by-election was called, before their current leader had a chance to contest having his name on the ballot? More than 110, I can tell you that. So when they send you the press release and when they, get you worked up that this is a good line of questioning, have they shared this information with you? Have you had the opportunity to push back? You have? What did they say?
No,
No, I didn't.
I'm nodding in agreement.
Oh, okay. So it seems like sometimes there's no rush for a by-election. And other times, when there's wildfires, a state of emergency, thousands of Manitobans out of their homes, the only thing the PCs can think about is call an election. So again, maybe I'm not being nice, but maybe there's also some substance to what we're talking about here today.
On that note,
Yeah.
is it hard for the province right now to find enough hotel rooms for evacuees?
We've got, you're talking about close to 12,000 people out of their homes, which is a huge human cost. That's also more hotel rooms than we have in the entire province. So yeah, it's definitely a big challenge. Hotels, in terms of the people who work there, have been really good partners to us, especially this second round. I think we learned a lot from the first round of evacuations, and they've been very forthcoming at here's the inventory, here are upcoming events that may pose challenge in terms of the reservations that we have with evacuees in mind. And then you think about evacuees themselves. Lynn Lake, Marcel Colombe, those folks were sleeping in cots in Thompson, in some cases for 3 weeks during the first round. They went home, cleaned up, and then were forced to evacuate again, right? And many of those folks are here in Brandon in terms of Lynn Lake and Marcel Colombe. And so my heart really goes out to them. Our team at the provincial level, working really hard with them, the local leadership, working really hard with the federal government, First Nations organizations to ensure that people can stay safe, but also stay in comfortable accommodations. At the same time, I am the premier for the entire province, and there's many other Manitobans who have many other needs. And so we have a balancing act that we're trying to pull off here, which is how are we going to accommodate this number of some 12,000 Manitobans who've been put out of their homes, while also ensuring that Manitobans can still go about the other business to keep our economy moving, to keep our society functioning. And the states of emergency are not supposed to be easy, and a wildfire season that sets records in all the wrong ways is certainly not going to lead to any easy calls to be made. But so far, I think the approach of working together and a lot of goodwill from Manitobans has really helped.
How has the second round of evacuations changed from the first one?
Well, it's the communities. Many of them are the same, and so the level of weariness, I think, is compounded. Like, imagine you're sleeping on a cot in the Thompson Rec Center for 3 weeks. You got to go home for a week or two, and then now you've been in a hotel in Brandon for going on a few weeks as well. That would wear anybody down. Plus, you add the stress of not knowing what you're going to go home to when the evacuation order is lifted. So I think one thing is we're just dealing with people who've had a really tough time, and we're just trying to be sensitive and compassionate. And so I really appreciate communities like Brandon like many others across Manitoba, Portage, Morris, Winnipeg, Dauphin, and so on, Saugeen, OCN, who've opened their doors and welcomed people in. It's amazing to see that. And, it's a tough spot. The wildfire fighters, the Office of the Fire Commissioner, the local fire departments, the military, everybody's doing a great job in terms of fighting back against the blazes. The biggest thing I would say is this: the ultimate thing we want to see is people go home safely. Until that happens, yeah, it's going to be a challenge with hotels and congregate shelters and people stressed and, the human dynamic that works its way out. But the good news is that some of the situations with the firefighting this week, we've been able to see some progress. Hopefully we'll see more progress soon. And in the meantime, just, trying to be patient and hear people's concerns and figure out how do we just connect things so nobody falls through the cracks.
How is the province going to review how this emergency response has gone this year?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like this is going to be able to happen every year. A lot's going on.
The climate is changing. Right? That is very clear. Like, we're there in a wildfire fighting helicopter sortie with somebody with more than, 3 decades of experience. They said this has never happened, in terms of the consecutive years of wildfire activity. And this person's telling, maybe once every 8 years they'd have a big burn, and big burn would maybe be a few 100,000 hectares. This year it's 1 million hectares, right? And that's coming after another big burn season last year. And hey, you don't need to be an expert in Manitoba hydro reservoir levels or the ag industry to know it's been dry this year. So what does that mean, right? Again, our province is going to have to adapt to many things at the same time. One of them is the impacts of a changing climate. So this current wildfire season, we're going to get people into rooms and shelters and ensure that people are safe. At the end of this wildfire season, we're going to have a review internally, not just in terms of the wildfire fighting effort, though that's going to be an important part of it, but also in terms of the emergency social services and the coordination to keep people safe. And we're also going to invite people in from the outside. Give us that outside set of eyes, the expertise. What do we need to do on forest management? What do we need to do in terms of shelter in the future? And again, let's not forget that these lessons need to be transposed to flooding, other natural disasters. God forbid we ever see something like COVID happen again. Nobody wants to see that. We're not going down that road, but we got to prepare just in case. So again, some of the questions that I think you're raising today will need to be posed, not just in terms of like how many rooms, how many evacuees tonight, tomorrow. At the end of this wildfire season, we're going to have to look at, is it realistic to expect us to scale up open hotel rooms every natural disaster season? Is that the expectation? If so, what are we going to do to create more hotel rooms, right? Or is there another large-scale sheltering opportunity that we need to be able to have access to in Manitoba? Or is there a combination of fire mitigation, investment in northern infrastructure like roads and larger runways that can accommodate Hercules aircraft that are well suited to large-scale movement of people that we need to make in combination with sheltering, right? So it's a really, complex, multifaceted equation that we're trying to solve here. And we're going to do what we always do, which is just turn to the people who know best, which is Manitobans locally, who have seen in Northwest Winnipeg, in Brandon proper, in Portage la Prairie, what is it like to host a large-scale number of evacuees? We're going to ask the experts in terms of the wildfire fighting and the forest management, the Indigenous perspectives, being part of that expert group of opinions we'll consult. And then, of course, the broader people whose expertise are in things like logistics and large-scale planning.
And on that note,
Yeah.
Mr. Premier, the estimated cost so far of the fire this year, not just in terms of the response, but in the loss of revenue to the province. I know we'll get full numbers later, but we've been briefed on an interim ballpark idea. Would you be able to share that with us?
So interim ballpark number, in terms of what's actually been tallied to date, you're talking about approaching 50 million, right? But this is only partway through the season, and that's always looking in the rearview mirror, as you well know from covering a lot of different government initiatives over the years. So we can definitely say it's going to be north of that 50 number, and part of it's going to depend how long people are out, how many resources we need to continue to marshal.
And are you guys okay if I ask questions on behalf of Radio Canada?
I have a couple.
Yeah, please.
Are there any smaller communities or First Nations that are offering to open up their doors to host people who are having
Yeah.
to be evacuated?
Yeah, like, Manitobans have been amazing, right? Like Winkler, Manitoba, right away, first round, we're ready. You know what I mean? Saugeen First Nation, we're ready. We want to do our part. Peguis, you know what I mean? So many communities, and both First Nation and, towns, cities, villages have been amazing. Part of what we know about moving people around the province, though, is that folks, it's not just heads on beds. People need support. The first people to be evacuated are often people on dialysis or with other complex medical needs. Does the community that's stepping up have the healthcare capacity to be able to support evacuees like that? Folks living through a stressful situation, everything from childcare to harm reduction and other kind of supports, the ability to debrief. You know what I mean? I just saw my community on the news, and super stressful. Who can I talk to? Really challenging issues around safety and security too. So part of the complexity of housing folks is not just finding a space. Manitobans in the business world, as one example, have been amazing at stepping up and saying, I've got a warehouse, I've got a hangar. Okay. Office of the Fire Commissioner walks in, all right, if there was a fire in this building, there is not egress for this amount of people. We don't have the shower space. We don't have the washroom space. We don't have the ability to feed people, and on and on and on. So again, communities in Manitoba have been great. Manitobans have been great at putting up the hand and saying, count me in, I'm ready to help, I want to do the right thing here. And where we're actually putting people and sheltering folks, whether it's in a hotel or a congregate site, has to do with us being able to adequately meet the healthcare basic needs and other services that we have to be able to provide.
Okay, and I'll bring it back to more on the school thing.
Yeah.
Assiniboine College has halved its culinary arts intake and scrapped its baking and hospitality programs just recently because of the federal immigration policies. What does that mean both for colleges and the entire community here in Manitoba?
Well, there's certainly a lot that Minister Cable can jump in on here with respect to the federal government's changes, but I'll say one thing that's not changing is our government's commitment to ACC. The Prairie Innovation Center is going to get built on the North Hill of Brandon, and we want to see the federal government invest in that site. Again, I don't know the protocol of saying this in front of you from BU. Like, is that okay for me to acknowledge? Is it okay for me to acknowledge the existence of ACC while I'm on campus here? I don't know. Like, I hope so. Yeah, everyone's working together. We really want to see the feds invest in that project as well too, but we don't want to wait. We want to see shovels in the ground. We want to see that capacity because of the ag industry. Right? We need to have more workers in that pathway towards working in the ag industry. So we've made that huge investment in terms of direct dollars. We've made the additional large investment in terms of borrowing guarantee for ACC. So we're going to get the Prairie Innovation Center built. And just it's unfortunate to see that they face other fiscal challenges as a result of decisions that other levels of government are making. So you want to jump in on
Sure.
ACC? Yeah.
I appreciate you raising the international student piece. We knew when the federal government unilaterally made the decision that it would have impacts, and we are starting to see it in real time. And we're working with all of our public institutions to help right-size programs. But really, we continue to make the case for Manitoba. Manitoba is a bit different than BC. It's a bit different than Ontario. We have not only labor market needs here, but our communities, as we know, as we look around this room, our communities benefit from newcomers coming to Manitoba. And so we'll continue to make the case with the federal government and continue to work with our institutions.
What else is the province doing to help those schools, at least for now, especially because of these federal policies?
We work closely with them on funding arrangements. We work closely with them on ideas for partnerships. As I said before, we all work together. Partnerships between institutions, with private sector, with K-12. And it really is, this is a great example of what happens when we all work together. So you see the Minister of Health behind me, Minister Samard here from Brandon, the Premier is here. This project is a great example of partnerships and working together and what we can do when we pool not only financial resources, but human resources and brain power. And we'll continue to do that all across the sector.
Can you speak to, last question, on how the policies and the cuts that happen because of them are hurting the industries here?
I won't speak on behalf of industry. I will speak on behalf of, I will speak to what I know of, which is the anecdotal pieces that we're hearing from institutions. It has been a real challenge, and part of the challenge has been that we were not consulted. And as the federal government continues to make changes, there continues to be additional challenges for institutions. So our first ask for the federal government is to bring us to the table in a real way, to have conversations and to talk about how unique Manitoba is. Thank you.
Mr. Premier, en français, s'il vous plaît. Forgive my pronunciation. Que diriez-vous de l'idée d'essayer d'attirer des votes de Spruce Woods en un ensemble de financement dans la circonscription?
Pretty good pronunciation. So just on the last point there, I would say we've told the federal government on their immigration changes that what makes sense in Mississauga doesn't always make sense in Manitoba. And what makes sense in Brampton doesn't always make sense in Brandon. And so we showed up last year as a government with several $1 million for both BU and ACC to help them deal with emerging cost pressures as a result of collective bargaining agreements. And what does that mean? Long and short of it is means you need to recruit and retain good people to teach at ACC and Brandon University, and that's a worthwhile investment. And so we came forward to help work with that. But at the same time, when the federal government makes a change like this, after BU and after ACC have already planned on having that money coming in from international students, it pulls the rug out from under them. So I think Minister Cable's making a lot of good points here. And I'll welcome our two latest colleagues, Jamie Moses, Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation, Minister Bernadette Smith of Housing, Addictions, Homelessness, and Minister Matt Wiebe, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice of Manitoba. Photo op. Bien, sur la question en français, il y a tellement plein de choses à faire cet été pour appuyer ceux qui habitent à Spruce Woods, ceux qui sont ici à Brandon. Nous sommes en train d'appuyer ceux qui ont quitté leurs abris à cause des incendies. Nous sommes en train d'appuyer ceux qui ont besoin des nouvelles chemins dans leur communauté, dans ce système de santé, incluant les francophones. Ça, c'est nos priorités. L'autre partie, qu'est-ce qu'ils sont en train de faire? C'est toujours juste en jouer avec les politiques. Pour nous, nous sommes en train de servir les Manitobains et Manitobaines.
Pourquoi choisir ces moments pour annoncer un tel financement dans cette région?
Parce que la journée est toute ensoleillée et puis Brandon, c'est une des meilleures places d'être dans l'été ici dans le Manitoba. Alors, si j'ai la chance de venir ici pour partager des bonnes nouvelles qui étaient avancées par l'université, par le système de santé, par les autres inclus dans ce partenariat, oui, je viendrai.
Avez-vous une idée du candidat de votre parti?
Oui.
Et vous êtes?
Ben, on est ici pour, je veux faire la même chose de façon bilingue. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour rebâtir le système de santé. Et puis, nous aurons des affiches bilingues la prochaine fois.
And last one from Radican. Quand annoncerez-vous la date d'élection partielle dans Spruce Woods?
Ben, J'inviterai les journalistes de Radio-Canada de venir pour poser cette question et puis on pourrait faire le même discours et témoignage au sujet de l'intelligence artificielle que j'ai fait avec votre collègue en anglais.
And finally, for Carol Sanders, who got cut off the Zoom, I guess.
There's no Zoom? Okay,
Free
thanks.
thought around to reading the March 29th hydro rate application. Premier, how do you expect Manitobans to pay for Bible 1 and 2 transmission line overhauls? And will it be an added charge to hydro?
No, I think we've made really plain our plans on hydro. This year there's a rate freeze, and we're really focused on affordability. We brought forward this big affordable energy plan because we know we got to do right by the climate. And how are you going to vote, or how are you going to invoke a sentiment about Manitobans so that they do right by the climate? It's by making the climate-friendly thing the most affordable path forward. Everybody will buy an EV if they don't have to worry about running out of power on the highway, and if it's the same price or cheaper than a combustion vehicle. So if we can get hydro and you know, other policy levers into place to make that happen, it's going to be great for the climate. That's what we're working on. When we're talking about the HVDC project, this is exactly the leverage that Manitoba has as a low carbon energy power. Manitobans have been very smart over the past 50 years in investing in Manitoba Hydro. We've got hundreds of megawatts of low carbon electricity that we can use to build the future in our province. We want to build an AI data center, we could do it right now at the scale that OpenAI and other companies are talking about. But we'd prefer data sovereignty and a Canadian-led AI approach. If we wanted to build, you know, tens of thousands of new units of housing, we could power that with low carbon electricity right now too. Just game it out, all the different economic priorities you can think of, we can do that. And when we're talking about the situation with Mr. Trump, over the next 2 decades, Manitoba Hydro is going to spend in the ballpark of $30 billion on acquiring electrical equipment to renew our HVDC lines and to ensure that the lights keep running no matter how cold it gets in winter, how hot it gets in the summertime, and to do that in a low emissions manner. So what does that also mean? Heading into a tariff conversation with the Prime Minister and Premiers next week, Manitoba can come to the table and say, what are we doing, Team Canada? Are we going to keep spending that $30 billion in procurement we're about to go to market with on American companies and on building up the economy under the Trump administration? Or are we going to work together and are we going to send a message to our American neighbors that say, we're never going to be the 51st state, we're not going to be pushed around, and we're going to keep building our province into being a clean energy superpower by working with countries that treat us well, by working with the South Koreas and the European Unions and the other great partners that we have. And if we're going to buy a transformer, why don't we buy the transformer that's made down Pembina Highway in Winnipeg? If we're going to put people to work, why don't we put tradespeople in the Westman region to work? If we're going to hire consulting services, instead of sending that money south of the border, why don't we invest in the engineers and consultants here in our province? That's how we build up our economy, no matter which way we go with tariffs, which way we go with AI. And so, again, to land this plane, to ensure that that connection is being made from the bipole right to the home consumer, what I would say is this: the investments Manitoba Hydro makes are an opportunity for Manitoba to flex our economic muscle. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Hydro has a capacity crunch coming. We know this, well established from Hydro itself, not just the former CEO. Billions to build up generating capacity, billions to fix this existing decades-old infrastructure, and there's big debt already there, and you have in the past, prevented Hydro rates from increasing. How are you going to avoid massive rate hikes, even above and beyond the ones projected in the March 29th rate application to pay for this?
Yeah, I'm just saying, where you see a glass that's half empty, I see a glass that's half full. Because if we go through what you just said, first of all, I'd say the sun is shining. Life is good. And then in reverse order of what you just laid out, yeah, we made your hydro bills affordable this year. Yeah, we're investing in putting tens of thousands of Manitobans to work. Yes, we're going to market to create jobs on reserve and in Métis communities to stand up the next generation of wind power. Don't like to get political in front of young people, but here goes. The greatest single threat to Manitoba Hydro is having a PC government in the future of Manitoba. Do you know why? Do you know how much power the PC's built? We're in an age of energy, right? The single greatest constraint on AI is available power supply. Whoever has abundant, affordable electric power is going to be an economic force in the future. How much power did the PCs build in their last term in office, the last 2 terms? Not a megawatt, not a kilowatt, not a single watt of power. What did they build before that under Gary Filmon? Anyway, the point I'm making is this. There's more power in a donut at Tim Hortons than the PCs have brought online during recent time in government. And we're in an age of energy, right? Why did the Silicon Valley CEOs rally behind Donald Trump? It doesn't seem like a good cultural match, right? The reason why they did that is because he said he was going to unlock energy supply and allow them to build the AI infrastructure that they're all in an arms race over. Manitoba has the building blocks to be an energy superpower. We're making decisions in government to ensure that affordable energy is going to be there for you at your home, in your vehicle, at your place of work, so that you can power your life in a way that's good for the climate. And we're working with Indigenous governments and the private sector to ensure that we'll be able to do that in a fashion that respects our fiscal responsibility to you over the long term. And the best part of all is with the procurement opportunities we have with the billions hydro is going to be investing in the coming decades, alongside the hundreds of megawatts of power that we have available here, we have the ability to move the economic conversation in our province, across the country, and with the US. So again, we got a lot of great cards to play, and we're going to play them to the advantage of Manitobans. The most important thing is that we have a vision for the future of this province, you know? And you tell me if it sounds good for us to build jobs, to build an economic future with a growing economy, while also making your hydro bill more affordable.
Carol also asks how you would avoid the Pipelines 1 and 2 reconstruction because of cost overruns we saw under the Salinger government with Kiosk.
She should probably ask about different projects and that, but the point remains, we're in an era of mega projects. What is Carney trying to do at the federal level, and you know what's he getting criticized for at the same time? He wants to build mega projects. What's a mega project? Something bigger than $1 billion. We got a few mega projects underway here in Manitoba, a mine in northern Manitoba. We have the potential for an energy corridor, a trade corridor going to Hudson Bay. That would be great. Anyway, long story short, why am I saying this? When you stand up a mega project, it's the lead time and the planning time at the head of the timeline that really determines your success later on. So we're taking the time to get it right. We're having Manitoba Hydro carefully consider this HVDC project and ensuring that it's going to be carefully scoped, there's going to be contingency plans, and that we're going to work with partners who have experience in doing this. Good news is Manitoba Hydro is pretty much the most experienced company around when it comes to large-scale HVDC projects.
Good.
To wrap, I will rewind to healthcare. Do we have a date, shovels in ground, money's handed over, renovations are happening?
It's a whole bunch of different dates. Fall of 26 for the med students. When we're talking about money being handed over, I think there's $2 million on the way next year for the scope and design and lead work that's necessary in terms of the AET building. And then from there, you're talking about shovels, I think, the following fiscal year, which I believe would be 27, 28. Yeah. Just to be clear, the shovels in terms of the library space and the Brandon Hospital capital, that's like, that's separate. I was talking about the BU shovels, if you will. Yeah. Miss anything there?
Covered it.
Okay. Well, this has been a lecture. Oh, no, here.
It's actually a comment.
Okay.
So I worked in this science building for almost 20 years. A number of They work hard, they do their absolute best for the students in a building that's challenging. And in addition to educating science students, we also support the nursing programs. And we also have a program where we support students who want to go to medical school. And we have an almost 100% success rate. So my point is bringing it back. Thank you so much for what you've announced today. We really, really need this and we so appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Do you want to come up and say that in the microphone? Give you... Oh, no, seriously, that's so kind. Really appreciate you like having the confidence to say that and encourage us, because I know it'll make the team kind of be able to put the work in to make it happen. So thanks so much.